You've heard all the labels on higher education: 4-year, 2-year, community, technical, university, college, a lot of terms, but there's overlap. Some stand alone, some don't. But that includes the term land grant, and you might have heard us use it here on the 208 talking about the University of Idaho. And we know that some of you, or at least one of you, was looking for a little clarification about land grants and land grant schools. So we got this message from Greg in Boise, and he asks us, what makes a school an Idaho land grant recipient? Why University of Idaho and not Boise State? And what better way to answer that question than to bring in the land grant graduate himself, Andrew Bartline from the Murrow College at Washington State. Andrew, I know you dug into this. It's really not an award. It more has to do with the school's history and how it was created.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's exactly as it sounds as well, Joe. So a land grant school is the federal government offering a grant to a school or a state in the form of land. And apologies to Boise State, but they just missed that mark by a couple decades too late.
The land grant program dates all the way back to Congress during the Civil War, and it's only made possible by this piece of paper here. It's called the Morrill Act, named after this guy, Congressman Justin Morrill. His namesake is seen all over land grant schools, including these aforementioned examples from the Palouse. Congressman Morrill proposed his bill in 1857, but then President James Buchanan stamped it with a veto. But by 1862, President Abraham Lincoln picked up the pieces to ink his signature to make it law. It established a federally assisted higher education system. For every senator and congressman, the federal government provided each state with 30,000 acres. It was an early win for Idaho's congressional delegation, still fighting the feds over who owns what.
As you know, the federal government owns 2 out of every 3 acres in Idaho, 67%.
Now, a chunk of that land is earmarked for education. States could expand a current college or create a new one. By 1889, the Idaho Territorial Legislature agreed to establish the creation of Idaho's own land-grant university, based in the town of Moscow, blooming into the U of I we know today.
So if you see a public college focused heavily on engineering, agriculture, research, they are likely a land grant school, Joe. So now you know, it's how they were created often, but again, sometimes it's a school that's expanded with a land grant.
So I'm curious though, why Moscow? Is that just a random spot they picked?
That's a really good question, Joe. So to get into that, I don't know if you remember this, but the territorial capital used to be in Lewiston after they moved down to Boise. That was in about 1865. So the territorial legislature wanted to place a land grant school at the time in Idaho Falls, but the Idaho governor at the time, he vetoed it. So at the same time, Joe, U.S. Congress, they actually voted to, I guess sever would be the right term.
Cut the state in
half.
Take
the panhandle, and they would merge that with Washington. Well, Idaho's governor did not like that either, so he went to the president at the time, Grover Cleveland, and said, don't do that. So how do you mend the relationship? And he did veto it. So the North and South were kind of split in Idaho. They give him a college. That's how Moscow got it.
Really?
They mended the relationship between the North and the South because they were going to split and move to Washington. So they put the U of I there with a land grant.
Very interesting. Okay, so that's the full knowledge. I know you grew up kind of in the area. Did you know about that until today?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that U of I and Washington State were land grants. There's about one in every state, but I didn't know that piece of it, so that was a fun thing to learn.
Okay, so you send the questions. Andrew will hop on them. Thank you so much for the question, Greg. There's your answer.